Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm here with Dan Lee with Kane Remodeling, based in Austin, Texas. I'm extremely excited to have Dan come on today. I met him a few weeks ago at the JobTread boot camp, and he just really impressed me, walking up to me, kind of telling me about how he just started this business a few months ago, has already had a lot of success, so wanted to get him on here to share his story. Welcome to Builder Stories, Dan.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you tell us, how'd you get into construction? What led you to start a remodeling business? And yeah, tell us your story.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So I kind of always grew up around construction and the trades. My parents had a mom and pop home inspection and a small remodeling business growing up. So, summers when we were off school, I'd be helping my dad out. And in college, when I'd come back and for some summer work, I would help him as well, whether it be, remodeling or inspecting or anything along those lines. I went to school for business in Pittsburgh, and when I came out, I worked directly for a couple very high-end remodelers and then transitioned to a custom builder. From there, like 2017, 2018, so I was about 5 years in at that point, 5 years in of sales. And I was always on the sales side of things, sales and project management. Never really necessarily put the projects together myself, understanding them and definitely appreciating them. About 5 years in, I got recruited off LinkedIn and I went into tech. I went into tech sales. And I did that from like 2018, 2019 up until really the beginning of this year. And tech sales was fun. I did pretty well there and got up to like a senior director type of role with like a SaaS company, which was good. But I quickly learned that I don't want to live behind a computer, right? There's something about making things with your hands or even like putting things together that get made versus just sending emails out all day and trying to just connect with people and chasing people and hounding people for deals. So beginning of this year, I was like, you know what, or actually kind of end of last year, I was like, you know what, I understand construction. That's where my passion is. I've always flipped homes on the sides. I have rentals. It's like, this is really what I want to go into. So I was kind of putting together a plan, like, okay, if I, at that time I was looking to buy into a company, it's like, at what point could I really like the tech sales go? I was saying, okay, 12 to 24 months of doing this on the side, I'd be able to let that go and really just jump into this full time. So I found a business that was pretty close to me, and the gentleman was a little bit older. He had his business for 25 years. They were doing just under $1 million a year. He had his business up for sales. And so we met for breakfast pretty much every morning for like 4 to 5 months, just working out details and strategy and everything like that. Kind of dragging his feet a little bit, but it just is what it is. When it finally came to brass tacks about, hey, are we going to do this or not? The offer that I got, frankly, was absolutely insulting. But I think that was really good because at that point, it wasn't to the point where it was like discouraging. It almost kind of pissed me off a little bit and like lit a fire. I'd be like, dude, I want you for your 25 years of experience. I don't need you. I know how to do sales. I know how to talk to customers. I know how to design projects. The only thing that, I'll need to learn on my own is the project management side and working with subs and doing all that type of thing. So midway through February, that happened, and I was like, I'm just going to do this on my own. So at that point, kind of filed an LLC, realized where my holes were, and my holes, sales and marketing, I feel great on. My holes on this side is like, okay, that years of experience in the construction field, working with the subcontractors, working with the trades, doing things like that. So I started looking at coaching, contractor coaching. And I found a gentleman out of Florida. His name is Henry Goudreau. Very successful, probably in like late 60s at this point. But 10, 15 years ago, he sold his remodeling business for tens of millions of dollars. And now all he does is kind of give back and just coach at this point through virtual Zooms and things like that. Henry actually recommended that I use JobTread because when we're setting up initial platforms, he's like, there's really only two options right at this point. He's like, there's BuilderTrend, which is the elephant in the room. They've been around forever. They have market share. He's like, they're very expensive and they're not always very friendly for smaller businesses. He's like, and then some of my other guys that I'm coaching are using JobTread. And he's like, this is a smaller company. They're up and coming. They're much more flexible. They're much more friendly to smaller remodeling companies. So try to give them a shot first to see what you think. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So mid-February, beginning of February, right? So I pick up JobTread and start playing with the software and kind of putting that together and figuring out what that's going to look like and how I'm going to use it. And then about the 1 week before March 1st starts, I really just start turning on like advertising, things along those lines. When I talk about advertising and lead generation for us, because we are so new, we don't have the reputation yet, and we don't have like the Google listings yet and all that type of stuff, we did nothing but Thumbtack and Angie's List. And if anyone else out there has ever tried Thumbtack and Angie's List, you understand how competitive that can be, right? I have jobs now that are active or that we're finishing that we were one of 8 proposals that they received, right? Wow. I mean, so yeah, it's not just like 1 or 2, right? I mean, you're competing in that space. But what that does allow you to do is get a lot of leads very, very quickly. And then if you can sell yourself, do a good job on that. So the plan starting off, I was going to get the jobs, design the jobs, and then just subcontract out 100% of the labor and project manage from there, which isn't the best method for a lot of different reasons, but it's a place to start. Using, I guess, just kind of being tech forward and really kind of jumping into that and not shying away from tools like JobTread, tools like Thumbtack. Our first month, we did $260,000 in sales, right?
Awesome.
And so, yeah, so it is a lot of fun. But when we get all that money, you're like, oh man, now what do I do with this, right? But anyway, so that's kind of how we started. But the minute that happened, right, so we get all these sales in March, and then we have, 4 weeks to put stuff together and start the jobs, our business plan changed completely. Instead of subbing out everything, I was like, I'm going to go poach, right? I'm sitting on 50% deposits, $120,000. Now, a lot of that has to go on materials and cabinets and stuff like that, obviously. But now I actually have funds to be able to go out and get high-level guys that have been doing this for a decade plus that can actually put these jobs together for us, which allows us to control timelines better, control quality better, and just give a better experience, right? Like I don't have to worry about if the tile guys are not going to show up on Monday, right? They're not going to get to me to Friday, and then I have to push plumber back. I got to push electrician back. Like, no, we can do all that in house now. So since that happened, we've really hit the ground running. I was able to bring on 3 full-time guys. My master carpenter, I was able to poach from Renewal by Anderson. He's phenomenal. My other 2 guys are from Custom Builders. They're great. And now we're actually completing jobs, right? So I know a lot of people, if they hear this story, they're like, okay, yeah, you got all that money. Good job. You're good at sales. But what do you do? And our customers have loved us so far. We've gotten only 5-star reviews, happy clients, which has allowed us to put more efforts into sales and marketing and really rev up that engine and really start snowballing. It's so funny. So I like to think March 1st is kind of our start date, which gives us 10 months to the end of the year. And the gentleman that I was going to buy the business from, they did like just under $1 million, let's say $960,000 or so last year. In my first 10 months of business, we'll do over $1 million. Like we're well on pace. We're well above that. And I think that's very doable for us. And that's just something that kind of excites me, especially coming from where it was a little bit different industry to jumping over here.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's so exciting to hear, such a great success story just coming right out of the gate. You came out swinging, done a great job, selling. Obviously having that sales background, I think was, a huge advantage for you. I mean, a lot of times I see business owners who, they either sort of navigate, to the sales side or to the, production operation side. It's awesome that you've got that background to fall back on. I mean, why don't you tell us about like what is that first job that you sold? Like what did you guys do for them?
Yeah, so the first job that we sold, and before I jump into that, so a lot of it, and I enjoy sales very, very much, and I've always been good at it, and it's allowed me to progress very quickly in those roles. But if someone is coming into this without that sales background, they can still set themselves up to win by doing things that their competition is not, right? So for instance, Eric, I'm talking to you and we're speaking on JobTread. By using JobTread as not just like a proposal and business management tool, I'll be frank, I'll be the first one to say it. I'm using probably 20% of your platform right now. And not that I don't hope to grow into more or mature into more. It's just where we're at. We're so green and we're still developing our systems and practices. I just don't have need for that yet. But what I do have, and what's been very, very important to me is I know when I show up on a bid where there's going to be 5 or 6 other businesses coming through here, if everything else is the same, right? They like us all the same, our price is all the same, the quantity's all the same, but that's never going to happen. But anyway, let's just say everything's the same.
Sure.
But I know I'm sending them a proposal on email with pictures and descriptions attached to each item. And maybe even as I've gotten more advanced, especially after boot camp, going through and be able to pick their own options and selections, versus the guy that's going to write something on a piece of paper or send over something that looks like it's on a Word document. I'm going to win that business every time, right? Just the level of professionalism and the look up front signifies in the buyer's mind of the level of professionalism that they're going to get throughout the process. So I think, there's not everybody's going to have like my strength's not in the construction, right? There's other guys that are going to be much, much deeper and much more experienced with putting the job together than what I am. I lean on my guys for that, right? I brought in guys for that can do that for me because that's not my strength.
Yeah.
My strength is the sales. And I think that using tools like JobTread and some of these other tech companies that are out there can really put these companies further ahead.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, and again, it's not something that you have to like implement everything overnight. You got to figure out what are your biggest pain points, and you're starting off, brand new company. Well, you got to get sales. That is definitely the number one thing that needs to happen. Is we got to get some funds in here, and we got to start beating that heart. So I love how you just, again, you took the focus and said, let's go win some jobs, and then we'll figure out how to build them and deliver them. Luckily, that was a great thought to like, okay. Instead of just trying to, sub it out, have a little bit less control, going and really building out a great team, that's huge, man. Like your team is everything. And I think that was a really good approach. I mean, it sounds like you got a couple really good guys in there too that are going to help you deliver on it. Again, people got to figure out like, what are you going to be great at? Go focus on that, and then go find people that will be great at the other things that need to happen in the business, like you did. And that's exactly how you do it.
Yeah, no, it's been a good process so far. Absolutely. I couldn't be happier with where we're at and using the tools that we have. I think that sky's kind of the limits, right? It's almost, at this point, it's almost like just holding on like I'm going downhill so quickly. It's like just holding on the brakes just enough so that this car doesn't get out ahead of itself.
Sure.
But so far, everything's been great. We've been delivering really well on projects. We've been selling bigger and bigger projects. Early on, maybe I was even underbidding a little bit. Like my first project, like your question asked, was a kitchen, and I sold it for, it ended up being about $35,000. Realistically, it probably should have been a $45,000 kitchen, right? But you kind of learn that as you go. And maybe we paid our bills, but we didn't make a lot of money on this job, like pretty much broke even. But I was able to have her come through and put together a really nice customer referral video with me. I brought in a videographer that works with the realtors around. His stuff's phenomenal. And for $1,500, now I have this minute and a half video of her talking about how great the process is and how awesome we were to work with and how she'd recommend them to anybody. It's like, okay, so I didn't make money on this job necessarily. We paid our bills, but we didn't make money. But that video is going to get me 10 more jobs over the next year or two, right? So, and then you learn. And so as we go, you just start, and now that we're booked out 6 weeks, I'm not taking jobs unless they're $70,000 up, right? I mean, so we just signed an $80,000 bathroom. We signed a $100,000 kitchen, things like that, right? You get to be a little bit more controlled with how you do business, which has happened for us quickly. And as that timer shrinks down, if I get to the point where I only have 2 weeks worth of jobs, you bet we'll take what we can get as long as we pay the bills. But it seems like things are definitely going in the right direction.
Sure. I mean, dude, that great move, man. Getting a video testimonial out. Your first customer is always your hardest. And the next couple are going to be a little bit easier, still pretty hard. But like as you start to get more and more traction, it gets easier and easier. But being able to get those reviews, those testimonials, those references, like, man, that just like makes life so much easier and just pays dividends. That video will likely be a great tool for you for the rest of the company's history. You just keep collecting those and keep building that arsenal. It's a great approach.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And so, looking at the industry as a whole, right? And remodeling, builders are a little different. Builders are a little bit more tech savvy on the higher end, right? Because there's like production builders and there's like some of like the, nationally traded guys and stuff like that. But if you look at remodeling as a whole, especially, there's 5 to 10% of the businesses which are doing everything right. I mean, they have great websites, great online presence, great tracking of reviews. They put their projects out there so that people can see and stuff like that. There's probably like 30 or 40% of them that would have, a website that looks like it's 10 or 15 years dated, not really showing their strengths, not really talking about their projects, not really cultivating their clientele for reviews or testimonials or videos. And then there's the other 50% of them are like the guys in the trucks, right? Which don't even have like presences or anything like that. So when we're in this space and we're competing, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? No. Like, so I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I'm now in Austin, Texas. I know who the best remodeler in Columbus, Ohio is by far, like not even close. Does absolutely everything right. they don't walk into a job for under $250,000, right? That's who we're trying to be, right? So it's just looking at the competition, the guys that you want to be, looking at the from other markets too, right? It doesn't have to be a competition in your local market, but who's doing the best work in Phoenix? Who's doing the best work in Miami? What do their websites look like? What does their social media look like? What are they doing with their projects and how are they promoting them, right? What type of trends are they doing? What do their projects look like? I think there's just so much to learn if we can just kind of get out of our own bubble.
Yeah.
And, I know we're all working many hours a day, but this stuff's important for sure.
So what would you say, like, tell us a little bit more about working with Angie's. We've obviously heard a lot of mixed reviews about, Angie's, and the leads and how they are, sending out to numerous contractors. I mean, what's it been like for you? Because obviously something's working. You're getting deals out of this. Like, what's your experience?
Yeah. So my experience has been that it's a necessary evil. I don't want to use these platforms longer than what I have to.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, right? The end goal eventually is to have the SEO presence, the Google AdWords presence, and the reputational presence where you get referrals, where that's 80% of your business. Starting out, that's not an option, right? Unless you have a lot of money to come into this with and you just throw money at Google AdWords, it's really not an option.
Oh.
So starting off, you have to do those things. I will say that Thumbtack is significantly better in my experience than Angie's List. We have one an $80,000 bathroom, like the one that just signed on Saturday from Angie's, but it took 20 paid for leads to get there. Now, if I'm running those numbers, 20 paid for lead at $160 a piece on average, $3,200 for an $80,000 bathroom, I'll take that.
Yeah.
But all the time and mental stress of either this guy's not picking up his phone or I got to go show up and run proposals and stuff like that. So that's kind of the trade-off there.
Sure.
Thumbtack has been stronger for us. We've done, $250,000, $300,000 off Thumbtack. We're only winning probably early on I was winning like one out of every 3 bids, but then we booked out, so then we really raised our prices up. Now I'm winning maybe one out of every 5, one out of every 6. But you just have to wade through stuff. A lot of it's based off your filters, right? So my filters currently, this wasn't at the beginning, I only look at full bathroom or full kitchen remodel jobs. Like I don't want to change out, or I don't want to paint cabinets. I don't want to change out a couple cabinet doors. I don't want to fix a piece of tile. Right? If someone's like looking at a bathroom remodel or looking at a kitchen remodel, those are the ones I want to compete on. That's where I want to spend my time. So, it's a lot of effort. You got to be able to pick up your phone quickly and call quickly or text quickly. But I do think that these are tools that do go underlooked and are dragged pretty hard if you look on Reddit, right? Or places like that. And for us, they've been good, but it's just a lot of effort.
So you said you're paying about $160 per lead on Angie's.
Mm-hmm.
What are you paying on Thumbtack?
About the same. It's probably like 150 to 170 a lead. Yeah.
So tell us.
I mean,
like
if you run it, it still makes sense.
What's your sales process look like then? I mean, are you going out to, if you got 30 leads coming in, I mean, are you going out to every single one of them? Are you doing a pre-qualification call? Like, kind of what's the whole, from new lead all the way through to signed contract? What's that look like for you?
Yeah. So on these type of tools, there's not necessarily a need for so we're very familiar with the whole sales funnel and how it works. And when you're dealing with a tool like Thumbtack or Angie's Lead, theoretically, you can filter out what you're going to look for and what you're not going to look for. Kind of like we talked about, like we're not changing out a couple tile, or we're not trying to match and things like that, right? So if I'm only looking at full bathroom and full kitchen remodels, and the person puts the lead in there, give them a call. Sometimes they pick up. Very rarely they do. Shoot them a text. Text always works better. I set up 80% of our appointments versus based off of text versus calls. And then from there, go on site and get and just do your best and try to make the person see the vision that you see in your head, right? I don't think that we have to spend a lot of time on pre-qualification in those 2 areas. Google's a little bit different, right? You have a website lead. You don't know what that person is coming to you as.
Yeah.
I also think a lot of contractors don't do a great job up front, like telling them. So like on Thumbtack, my very first line is just so that like for the customers, just so that you don't waste your time, we are not going to be the cheapest option. If that's what you're looking for, we're not going to be a great fit. We are going to be a great quality option with great design and a great process at a great value, right? So just like let people know up front. But I think if you're upfront with what you do and how where you're going to be, I think that you can use these tools to your advantage for sure.
Sure. Are you given any sort of like ballpark pricing, kind of doing price buckets or like anything up front before you talk to them, or is that all after?
Yeah, so it just depends. So I have a booklet, and I don't have it around here. It's like a little 12-page leaflet that you can make off of Canva, for instance. And on that one, I do give ballpark pricing. Like my kitchen started at like 25. That'd be a very small one. My bathroom started at like 20, something like that, right? Because you do want them to be in the same mindset with you. But that's already when you're in the house and selling. I don't necessarily do that online because you could have a buyer that has a $50,000 budget. But they're staking in their mind that, hey, I can get this done for 20. And if I put online that, hey, my base is 30, but then they get me and they get 3 other quotes that are all over 50, I could have still won that, but I never got the chance to sell that person or to really show them why they should have gone with us, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I do stay away from that. Now, some of the better companies we were talking about a little bit earlier, they have that online where they're like, $150,000 for a kitchen. Like that, they won't take them underneath that. But they're at a different stage, I think, in the maturity of their business where they have enough work where they're picking and choosing the most profitable jobs that make the most sense for them and their brand. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
I still want to pick and choose myself, right? Like, I mean, if I'm talking to somebody and, I know this job, I could probably do it for 60, but I kind of want to quote them 85 because I feel more comfortable with that and the amount of time. I still want to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, again, if you have a slower month, maybe you're willing to, kind of step down and take some smaller jobs just to kind of keep the jobs flowing there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you do already have a website built out. How'd you get that done?
Yeah, so that was, so there's a lot of tools on the internet, for guys that aren't the most tech savvy themselves. One of the best ones that I would recommend is Fiverr. So Fiverr is outsourced, work basically that for anything. I mean, they can do website design, SEO, AdWords, everything like that. There's certain areas I'd stay away from them. I don't want them doing my AdWords. I want somebody who's specific to the building industry doing my AdWords, right? Or else I'm going to spend a lot more money than what I need to. But when it comes to website design, at the end of the day, a website's a website, if you're not doing the SEO and things behind the scenes. So what we did starting off was, find the competitors from the different markets that we most wanted to emulate. So Phoenix, Boston, Columbus, Miami, wherever it may have been, and pulled elements from the different sites, right? Be like, hey, I really like the way they do their about page. I really like the way that this homepage is structured. I really like, this, and kind of create this like wireframe on a Word document as far as what we liked and how it was structured and the way it looked. Then I found a guy on Fiverr who I believe he was either out of India or Pakistan, charged me $800 to build out the whole thing, right? There's really good ways of doing things if you just know where to look for them, right? Like you don't have to wear all the hats, right?
Sure.
You got to make decisions. You don't have to wear all the hats.
So I assume he did it on some platform that you now have the login to. Yeah. So if you need to go make a text change or even copy a page, can you have control of that website now, or is it still on his control?
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it's a WordPress website. It's hosted. I believe we're hosted on GoDaddy, so I have all the logins. The minute that he's done, I actually delete their admin access and everything like that. So it's solely mine, and I have access to all that type of stuff. And WordPress being super easy to change, if I ever need to port that, or if I never need to bring in somebody to work on it, it's really easy to do, right? Yeah. So yeah, but that stuff's very, very important. That's a big area that I think a lot of organizations are missing on. Is your online presence is probably the single most important thing. Like it's got to be up there with quality of work, which sounds ridiculous, but if your online presence isn't showing as good or better than your competition, you're going to get so many people that are going to pass right by you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the face of your company. I mean, first impressions matter. That's the first experience that they're going to have working with you. Like, it's got to be a strong one. It's got to be a good one.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in an area where it's you and 100 others, right? If it doesn't catch your eye immediately, or if it doesn't speak to them within that first 10, 15 seconds, if I get on the website and it looks like it's 10 years old, I'm just going down to the next guy on Google. Yeah, there's no way. Like if you're not paying attention to those details, then what details are you going to miss in my home, right? So it's those things like that.
I think though it is something too that it's a constant work in progress. Like you need to continually be adding to it, adding more pages, adding more content. Like Google heavily values that and will start showing you much higher because they know you've got more relevant, more recent content's been added. They start indexing you more. I mean, it's a huge tool to continually feed the beast, if you will. So are you taking on that now that you've removed your Fiverr guys access, or would you hire them again, or what's your plan there to keep adding to it?
Yeah. So for right now, so in our immediate future, so what you're discussing, and I completely agree with everything you're saying. We're going down the SEO track, right? Continually updating, continue adding backlinks, continue adding meaningful content, which is going to rank you higher on Google, right below the paid ads. For us, with where we're at, and because now we're kind of sitting on like a war chest of funds to some degree. I mean, we got to be careful with that. I can't go out and spend it all. I still got to buy materials. But my next focus now will be to continue to cultivate Thumbtack and Angie's, and now go very heavy into Google Ads. Because even if I'm cranking it on SEO, right, which is I think is very, very important. The Google ad listings are still 3 listings above the best SEO, right? So in my mind, that's the next and most important thing. So talking about JobTread, actually, I was looking for SEO companies, and this was an area where I didn't want to outsource this one. I wanted somebody that was working with a bunch of other contracting companies, right? Because if you're working with a contracting company in St. Louis and a kitchen company that's doing remodeling, and they're doing very, very well, most of those strategies, if not every single one of them, can be ported over and used again and again.
100%.
Right? So I actually got on JobTread's marketplace and found a builder funnel, and I've started working with them. So we should be going live with the AdWords on Monday, actually. So very much looking forward to that. But yeah, so for me, again, content's super important. I can only have so many hours in the day, so you kind of have to prioritize things until we can start getting office staff set up and things like that. But for us, our next big focus will be the AdWords, because again, those top 3 listings on Google, those are probably what I would say like 50 to, I don't know, I'm pulling these numbers out of my head, but 50 to 75% of people are going to click one of those top 3 listings. There are people that don't click ads. They'll continue to scroll down, and those will be the next focus when we start going into SEO and blogs and content that's actually meaningful for our customers.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting now that, when you're, scrolling down Google, you no longer have to go to the next page. They just kind of keep loading. So those ads keep getting inserted into the search results. So even if you're not paying for that top spot, maybe number 4, you're in there too. I mean, what's the competitive landscape for you like in Austin?
So Austin's very competitive. And one of the things down here too, which was different from where I'm used to up north, kind of in the Midwest, is we're very close to the border. And so with that, there's a lot more lower price competition pretty much everywhere you go. And the quality of work kind of across the board, from the new homes that you buy to the remodels, the quality of work's much less, right? So for instance, like the Northeast, it's very expensive, and the quality of work's very, very high. Down here, the labor is very inexpensive and the quality of work's kind of very low. Not everybody, but that's the trend here. So for us, our biggest push and our biggest driver is to distinct ourselves through first impressions, through website, through imagery, through talking about our projects and having our clientele talk to us, that we're not that type of builder, right? I don't want to compete with that pool at all. So for us, we really want to be in the kind of that mid to top tier builder. And I think in that area of remodelers, there's definitely an area to penetrate. We're doing very well. Every market's competitive. I think every market's a little bit different. But yeah, we've been doing really well to start with. We'll see how the summer continues to go and how the fall starts. But I only see the snowball speeding up, right? Because, we're only using a few very small tools, which if you look on average, right, there's only 7 million users that use Thumbtack, and there's 150 million homeowners in the US, right? So it's like, okay, that's 5% of homeowners use this app, and we're having this success with this. Well, how many of those homeowners use Google? How many of those homeowners use House or whatever, right? So I think as we continue to add pieces and then support the company around that by hiring the guys and the teams that can support those pieces, I'm very optimistic with how we'll grow.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people sort of shy away from using the Angie's and the Thumbtack because they don't want to get into that competitive situation, but it almost seems like you thrive on it, like you want to get in there. And what are you doing to when price comes up, or when they want to go shop and look at other people? I mean, how are you trying to handle that? I mean, is there a strategy you use to try to cut that off, try to get them to sign right now, or like how do you kind of deal with those objections, or we need to kind of think about it some more, or go look around some more?
Yeah. So my first job out of school, I was doing window and bathroom models, and it was a hard close. It was a 3-hour appointment where you thought you signed a waiver at Walmart to get a chance at free windows. You really got a chance to sit with me for 3 hours and have me try to hard sell you until you told me to leave. So I'm very familiar with those practices, and personally, I don't like them. I mean, I've done them and I was very good at it. But that's not how I do this business. I want to be a different type of remodeler, a high-end luxury remodeler, where you trust the process, you trust the company, and you trust what you're going to get. And I think one of the best ways of doing that, even in these competitive environments, is by being very professional, very upfront with the people, and just being very, very honest. So when I walk into a kitchen, it's like we'll look at the kitchen and say, well, what are you expecting? What do you want to do? Give me your dream, right? And let them go first. And then I'll give my input on what we can do and how we can make it look, the best we possibly could, and what design ideas. And by taking time for the design and taking time to work with their dream and then do it in a way to make it look even better that they can kind of latch onto, I think you do build trust and you build credibility in that. But then when you get to pricing, just being really upfront, it's like, okay, you thought ahead of time that you could get this kitchen done for 15. Well, let's just walk through whether you work with me or you work with anybody else. The cabinets on the very lowest end, you get them from Lowe's or Home Depot, it's going to run you $150 to $200 a linear foot, right? So count that out. The quartz countertops installed, it's going to be $100 a square foot, and $200 to $250 if you go Cambria, right? And count that out, and just try to be upfront and honest with them. And it doesn't matter if you go with me or anybody else. These are the costs, and these are the elements that we're dealing with here. And then just try to be more professional when it comes time for a proposal. I email my proposals out directly from JobTread, and then I follow up. I text them and say, hey, just so you got that. If you have any questions, let me know. And then I text them the next day. And I'll text them 2 days later, and I'll text them 2 days later, just see if they have questions, right? You're not trying to bug them, but you're talking to people the way that they talk. You're not just sending out a proposal and just letting it go. I've done that in the past, but those are on jobs that I don't want to win, So it's like,
yeah.
But if it's a good one, be there for them, answer the questions. The lady with the bathroom, I mean, this is going to be a cool one. We're going to do a steam shower. We're going to do a slipper tub. It's it's going to be a big project, probably 3 weeks. And, but I followed up with her once a week, and it's like, hey, this is my weekly check-in. How are you doing? You got any questions? Anyway, we can help for probably 6 weeks before we finally won that, right? But every Monday or Tuesday, I sent her a text. And so finally, at the very end, her biggest concern was, I don't want to leave my house for too long. I got to get an Airbnb and everything like that. Told her, it's like, well, with my team, I promise you that we'll get it done in 3 weeks or under. And for every day we go over that 3-week mark, I'll take $1,000 off your final price. It was like, deal. So
wow.
That's how you win it.
Nice. Now, what happens if you open up the wall and there's something that you weren't expecting? I mean, is that you got a little clause to sort of protect yourself from the unknown?
No, man. I mean, it's an $80,000 bathroom.
Yeah.
If it takes an extra week, I'll take $5K off the price. I mean, it just is what it is. At that point, it's going to be a cool job, but I'm so far over on margin that we have room to wiggle if we need to.
Sure.
And I know my guys. I know the quality of the work that they're putting out right now. I've seen them in there, and I'm very comfortable with where we're at. And if we're a little bit over, we're a little bit over. I'm okay with that as well. So
seems like a great strategy, though. I mean, I certainly think that's a very compelling offer that I'd be willing to bet nobody else has made for him.
Yeah, well, it's just being creative, right? It's meeting the people where they are. I know her biggest concern. She wanted to get this done. She has the money to do it. Her house is beautiful. She really wants this one feature, right? She doesn't need it. She's in a $1.5 million house or whatever, but she wants it really bad. Her biggest concern is that time frame and being stuck out of her house, like the horror stories you hear where guys are just using subs, and a kitchen can take 2 or 3 months.
Uh-huh.
Our first kitchen that we got done, we finished in just under 3 weeks, right? So but it's meeting people where they are and seeing where the concerns are. And I'm knowing that time frame is her biggest concern. There's nothing that I can say that's going to make her feel more comfortable with that. Let's put my money where my mouth is and show her that I'm serious about this. And it worked.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a big proponent of using subcontractors, but if I was in your shoes, are you using the fact that you now have in-house guys? Is that another competitive advantage that you just come right out with and try to use as a differentiator?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we do use some subs, right? Like I will not touch plumbing. Like we'll do drains and stuff like that, but I'm not touching gas lines. I work with this crew of tile layers that are absolutely phenomenal. They do quick work and they are very, very precise. So I have a guy on my team that can do tile, and he does tile at a pretty good rate. But this crew has 3 or 4 guys that can do tile, right? So a big job like that, best believe we will be using some subs. But I do believe, because even at the boot camp, I was talking to some of the guys, and they're doing well, but they'll be one-man shows, right? And they'll just sub out and really project manage. And I just see that my concerns and their concerns are so much different, right? Like they're concerned, they're freaking out about the idea of if they go with the wrong faucet and it's leaky and having to go back and do a warranty on it. Where for me, it's like, that's not a concern at all. Just send a guy to go fix that for you. Like, oh, we'll just fix it. Part of warranty, you know? So I think I think the trades and this, and I saw this too growing up. This happened kind of after like the crash of '07, when all the construction and many of the builders and stuff like that kind of went dead and went out of business. Companies that came back from that were very scared to ramp up with in-house labor. And that's what created this huge like sub market, right? Where everyone's just using subs, and they're really just, it's a remodeling company or building company in name, but really it's a project management company. If you look at how it's structured. And I know why they're doing that, because as things go very, very lean again, the overhead's just not there. But there's also a lot of limits with that, right? Limit on control schedules, limit on quality, limit on, who you're putting in that house. So we're kind of going a different route. I'm not going to say that we're going to be all in-house, but I definitely think limiting the subcontractors I use to guys that we can trust. And then, I'm not stacking up sub after sub after sub schedule, because one of those schedules get messed up and then everyone else's schedule's messed up, and then you're bouncing around other jobs that have already been lined up. That we're not going to have to work that way.
Sure. So one of the things that I often see as a big challenge for, especially for new businesses, you don't have a lot of historical data, you may not have a great handle on your numbers, figuring out how to price jobs is just always a big challenge for people. So, what have been your thoughts on them? I mean, you said in your first couple jobs, you broke even, you're happy to get a review out of it, but, what are you doing now? I mean, what are you targeting from a profit margin standpoint, and how has your thinking kind of evolved over the last several months?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of experienced guys that are going to hear this part and just like pull their hair out. But so mess up 1 or 2 and you'll figure out your pricing real quick. That's one. But realistically, I go into a job with what I know the job's going to cost me, because I've done the homework ahead of time. Where, okay, I know what cabinets cost, I know what tile costs, flooring costs, I know what my labor is on a weekly basis, I know what all the elements are going to cost me, and then I go into the job with how much can I sell this for, right? So if a bathroom is going to cost me 30 grand, but I can sell it for 80, I'm going to sell it for 80. And that's just is what it is. And then there's going to be other jobs where, because of the buyer, I'm going to have 40 grand in cost and I can sell it for 50. So there's not necessarily a profit margin that I hold true to or stick true to. I think some of it is just building up through the years of sales and learning to talk with people and learning to kind of fish out some of those numbers and their budgets and what they're willing to work with. And then figuring out if the job's worth it or not, right? Like I have a client that I'm seeing tomorrow. She told me right up front, like, hey, my budget's 50 grand. And then she gave me a laundry list of all the things she wants to do to her house. It's like, so, okay, I'll meet you tomorrow. We'll go through everything. And then we're going to prioritize what your most important items are. And I'll tell you how much of that I can knock off for that budget. And then if you go with someone else who can knock off more of that, power to it, right? I'm not going to lose sleep over losing a job like that.
Sure.
So right now, I'm not really crushing on the profit margin. I pay myself pretty well. I pay my guys pretty well. I pay myself and my guys very well. So as long as we're hitting our mark, the biggest thing I'm trying to do right now is grow the brand and grow the business, and then eventually get to the part where we snowball through referrals. So that'll come where we have a better handle, I think, on the numbers and the profit that we're going after. But that's not a main focus right now, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, again, I think it comes back to having that great kind of sales experience where you're very good at feeling out the situation. What's their budget? And look, maybe we can't do everything today, but like, let's figure out what those priorities are. Let's get that knocked out, and then maybe we come back in 6 months when you got some more budget. I think there's a lot of good ways that you're clearly showing that that background in sales has been very beneficial to you.
Yeah, I think so, and that's one where definitely emphasize and try to think for, like, okay, maybe the guys that don't quite have that sales background, like, what are implementations that you can use to try to help yourself and pull some of this stuff out here. And again, I think the most important thing, like if you don't have like that true sales background where you've been doing it for a decade, or you're just super comfortable with that, you're comfortable on the other side of remodeling or on construction, you really have to really press on that first impression. Like your website should be the best one in your area. You really have to make sure your proposals are just tight as possible. You have to make sure your process is as tight as possible. And you have to make sure. So one of the things I learned this very early on, but have you ever been in a sales process, Eric, where the person you can tell is running you down a laundry list of what their next questions are?
Oh yeah.
Right. And maybe they're paying attention to, or maybe not, but then you start like picking up ticks where it's like, okay, this question's coming here and this question's coming here. What's your budget today? When are you looking to buy? Is there any other decision makers that we would have to talk to about this project? And like so on and so forth. Right. I think those are all important, and there's a reason why they're written and the reason why they're coached in every sales seminar ever. But I don't think you should hang your hat on those. The most important thing when you leave that house is that they like you as a person, right? You showed up professionally, you showed up on time, you treated them very well. You don't have to kiss ass, but you got to treat people well.
Yeah.
And they have to like you as a person. People buy from people they like.
Yep.
And if they like you and they trust you, you got a really, really good shot at it. Forget about it, kind of all the other stuff. Get the information you need. I'm sure you can price it out right, but make that person like you. And if you can do that, you're going to sell a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've also though really dialed in your numbers and know your costs very well. I mean, I got to imagine you've built out kind of templates and like you understand your unitized pricing and what it's going to take to do that. I mean, how long does it take you to turn around a proposal on average?
Yeah. So, actually after boot camp, considerably less time because the pricing is really important, right? And figuring that out up ahead of time. And then, myself, I'm newer to this and I'll admit that, right? I don't have experience with other guy who's been in the industry for 20 years. So I know whatever my pricing is, I'm going to throw an extra like 20, 30% on top of it for stuff that I don't see behind the walls. And then I'll put my margin on top of that or whatever I think I can sell on top of that. But using templates, especially on the proposal side of things, right? We talked about this when we went over this a little bit, Eric, and I've actually used it in the last week and had pretty good results on it. So now, I can build a pre-built kitchen template. And as long as there's nothing like super custom, like we're moving walls or moving plumbing or something like that, where, that's on a per job basis, pretty much have this kitchen template, put in the linear feet of their cabinets, the square feet of their floors and countertops, and then hand it over to them, just flip it around, hand it over and like, hey, I could do this kitchen on the very lowest end with builder grade material for $35,000. Or I could go showroom quality on absolutely everything you see and turn this into a design house and do it for $120,000. Pick the options that you want, And I think that there's a lot of value in that, right? Because now you're taking the sales pressure off yourself. Yeah. And you're allowing them to feel like they're in the driver's seat, right? Like now they're picking the car with the options, right? Yeah. They already know they want the car. Now they're picking the options on it. So I definitely, there's a lot of value to that. So, and I've just really kind of started playing with that with them last week, but I could see that becoming very built out and very robust over the next couple of months for sure. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool stuff, especially around the templates and building out the proposals ahead of time. So when you go into the house, you pretty much already know what this is going to be, just minus the numbers, right?
Sure.
The square footage, linear feet, stuff like that.
Have you, have you looked at setting it up with the formulas and the parameters where you can, kind of have it all based on just plugging in, what's the linear feet of cabinet, like, all those different kind of parameters you can just drop in there and then it like builds the whole thing out for you.
We might be, no, you might be doing it. You might be doing it on like a better, more technologically advanced level. So where I'm at right now is I have this, I have the template with the subgroupings where it's select one, right? So I'll have, builder grade. I just kind of cut that one off because I don't even want to give them that option anymore. But let's go with like semi-custom, one other level, and then like full custom cabinets. And then I'll just put in, okay, they have 32 linear feet of cabinetry. I'll just plug in 32 linear feet and then turn around. There's probably an even better way of doing it than that. Me, this is what I found to work.
Yeah, a lot of different ways. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, the cool thing is that you're giving them the power to control their own budget. And it's like, it's so insightful. Like they may tell you on the forefront, hey, here's what I want to stick under. But then like when you kind of watch them start making their selections, you see where they're gravitating to. And then if they, they really want to see what that upper end looks like, I think that really kind of gives you a lot of insight without even have to, ask them straight up about it.
Exactly. And like anytime you're in somebody's house, right, especially for what we're doing, they want you there for a reason, right? You're fixing a solution. Unless you're kind of doing door to door stuff like that, in which case, good luck, power to you. There's a place for it. That's not the world I play in, though. But so for what we do, they want you there for a reason, right? So if you can take but the buyer always has like their guards up, right? And if you can put them in the buying seat where they're making their own options and their own decisions, and they're building out the solution based off the design that you've already walked them through and sold them on the beautiful vision of, it's just going to make your job so much easier, right? Because then you're not fighting those guards. You're not trying to overcome those type of objections or anything like that. Like they already want it. You're there for a reason. And I think there's a lot of value to that. And then there's ways of strategically placing it too, right? So each one of those descriptions, my wording gets more glamorous as it goes down, right? So like MDF cabinets, these are builder grade. This is great for a buyer on a budget. My picture is going to be a Google picture of builder grade cabinets that is not super flattering. It's not wrong. It's just, this is what it is. My next one, semi-custom, is going to speak a little bit better about it. And the picture is going to be of a much cooler kitchen. And then full custom is going to be like $1 million kitchen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so there's ways of structuring these things and then allowing them to go through. It's like, okay, a farmhouse sink is going to cost me $1,500 more, but that looks a lot better than that undermount stainless. I really like that, right? And then at the end of the day, like, I don't care what they pick. Like, I'll build whatever they want as long as it's within these parameters. I've already set my baseline where, hey, I'm not going below this. So, if you want to negotiate with me, negotiate with the template. That's where you negotiate. I'm not negotiating. Like, that's the lowest I can do it for. Yeah, so yeah, I think there's a lot of value to that for sure, and kind of putting them in the buying seat.
So have you thought about what's the strategy to get repeat business? Because obviously, if you go in and do a kitchen, well, there's probably an opportunity to go do a bedroom, a bathroom, kind of maybe an addition. Like, well, what's the kind of what is your cadence going to be to when you may follow up on additional work?
Yeah, so that is something that needs to be front of mind at all times. And while I definitely think there's value and that there should be systems and processes in place where there's organizations where like realtors will send out like birthday cards or like packet of chocolate for birthday and stuff like that. And I think there's definitely value in that. But I think what's better than any of that is you do a really good job and communicate, right? So I've worked with contractors in the past where whenever they called me, it would come across unrestricted. Like, hey, why yourself unrestricted? He's like, well, because I don't want my clients to have my number because I don't want to take calls at night. That's ridiculous, right? Like, that's not a way of running the business.
Yeah.
When I work with a client, whoever is on my team that's running that job, myself, the client and their husband, if they want to both be on it, or just the client, will all be in a 3-way group chat on the text message. And whenever any questions come up, we're all aware. Answer your phone at all times, text at all times, give update at all times. Hey, we're a day behind on tile because of X, Y, and Z. If you do a good job, you have constant communication along the way, they're going to remember you, right? So my kitchen, which I didn't make a ton on, they're like, hey, you want to come back next year for a master bathroom? Like, absolutely, give me a call. I'll be there, right? So that's where it is. I saw, we can do all the tricks in the world, all the sales tricks in the world, but at the end of the day, if you're not really focusing on that customer experience, right? Like that's what I tell my guys when we're doing like our weekly meetings, stuff like that. Like, we're going to pay our bills and we're going to make money, but how much money we make right now, I'm not nearly as concerned with as I am on quality and customer care. So I want every job to be a 5-star job. I want every customer to love showing off their space to their friends and family that come through about us. The profit will take care of itself later down the road. Believe me, we're pricing these things out where we're going to be profitable, but that's not the main focus right now. The main focus is every customer loves us when we leave their door. Yep. And I think if that's the focus, then the referrals and the repeat business will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm 3 months in, so we'll see how it goes.
I mean, are you asking them at the end, hey, any of your neighbors, anyone else that may be interested?
So I know I need to put together a referral program, and it's on my list of things to do. There's just been so many things, but I really haven't been at this point. I'm just kind of letting my work speak for itself at this point. Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy with these things when they leave. We're not leaving until it's the way that I'd want it in my own house. But that is something that needs to come in place, and there's a lot of value to that. I know that some guys swear up and down by that and do a really good job with it. We just haven't put that in place yet.
Sure. I mean, coming out of the gate again, looks like you'll be hitting $1 million in your first year. I mean, again, that is incredible. Kudos to you for crushing it right away. How far down the road are you looking? I mean, what goals have you set for yourself that, where do you want to see this business, go in the next, 5-10 years?
Yeah. So if we do one this year, I'd like to get a showroom, in January or right around there, end of the year. That'll be beginning next. I want to do like a real high-end showroom. And then I would want to do probably 3 next year. And then I'd like to do 5 the year after that. And I think those are all very doable and realistic. And this first 10 months, gives us a lot of times to kind of set the foundation and build the systems out that we're going to need to do that, right? I can't be on every job site. Right now I can. I'm on every job site every day. I walk every single one of my job sites every day. We have 4 projects running anytime. I make sure I hit every single one, right? Because I want the homeowners to see me. I want to know where we're at. And I want my guys to know that we're all in this together. But that will always be doable. So we need to build out systems, and we need to get the right people in place to build the quality of brand that we're looking for. So, but yeah, I think 1-3-5 is kind of our goal right now.
Nice.
If we do that, the 5 and 10 year plan will definitely take care of itself. But that's definitely our focus.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously going into this, you recognize that your biggest challenge was going to be on, the production side. Sounds like you've done a great job, putting some pieces in place that help you manage that. What do you think your next biggest challenge is going to be?
Yes. Yeah, no, that was definitely the biggest one. And, I do want to say something on that too. So especially starting off and being so new, and I was open with the guys, like, this is where we are, this is what I'll pay you. I did offer to pay them pretty good on the industry standard, like higher than industry standard. But one of the things I want to do as well is I want everybody to kind of own into the company and own into the quality and the brand itself. So right from the start, made a decision that 30% of the profits of the organization will go to the employees. So by everybody coming on, they knew that, hey, I get a 10% profit split on the jobs that I work, right? And right now, as we have small, that's easy to split. But then as we start moving out, it'll be on a per job basis. But so that was a big thing to especially get buy-in, and then also to be able to allow me to get better talent than what I should have been able to get elsewhere, right? Like my master carpenter from Renewal, he's like, I should not have had access to him, but because of kind of seeing a smaller company with what's hopefully going to be a growth pattern, and then being able to get profit of that and not just sit on a stale salary that stays there. I think there was a lot of value in that one. But I think answering your question, one of our next challenge will really be kind of creating systems for sure. Like that's going to be the next push, and that's going to take, well, that never really stops, but that's going to take some time.
Yeah.
The first one was getting sales and getting continuing revenue, especially with what we do. Deposit down in the front, deposit down at the end. Very material heavy at the end, very profit heavy at the beginning, very profit heavy at the end. So you need to start hitting cycles where you're getting both of those, right? When you first start off, you get a big deposit down in front, huge amounts of it. But that goes quickly, especially when you start buying material. And you don't start hitting that again until you start closing jobs. So once you start hitting like front and back end, stuff starts smoothing stuff out there. But next one would be to creating the systems. And I think on the production side of things, it's getting to the point where I have 2 to 3 crews of 2-man teams with my production manager, which will be my main carpenter, overseeing all of them and jumping in where he needs to help, but making sure the quality comes from him and the precision comes from him and kind of just flows down. And then it'll be creating the systems on the back end as well, better tracking, better data, knowing what our full costs are per job, full profit loss per job, things like that. So those will be the things that we build out probably over the next 6 months or so. But yeah, it's just a process. It's a lot, but it's awesome. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, again, you've already found JobTread, so you got a good tool there that'll help kind of grow with you. But I'm curious, at what point do you see yourself? Like how are you going to replicate yourself, and when do you see yourself sort of having to step out of that sales role that right now you're kind of managing all the sales, you're overseeing all the work. At what point do you sort of see that you're going to have to hand off the reins to a full-time salesperson?
So the way that we're structuring, I'm hoping that I won't have to do that for a very, very long time. Now on the production side and managing work and buying materials and walking job sites, that's going to have to go relatively quickly. right? And so that's kind of the next focus. But the design and sales, that's what I love doing. And if we get to the point as we grow, where not only are we taking on more jobs, but our baseline of jobs grows substantially, where, there might be a point where within the next year or two that, we don't really step on a job site for under $100,000. I would still like to be able to design and sell those pretty much all the way through. So I'm going to hold on to that one for absolutely as long as I can, because that's what I love doing.
I'm not surprised one bit.
Yeah. But the other stuff can definitely go. I'll get rid of that as soon as I can.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's again, it's just so exciting to see see a company that's so young. You've got that entrepreneurial drive, that spirit. I mean, I can tell that you're going to be wildly successful. I have no doubt. It's just really cool to see what you've already been able to accomplish in such a short time frame. But again, you got the whole world's your oyster, right? I mean, you're gonna be able to take that Austin market. I have no doubt you'll take it by storm. Especially as you get more of the SEO, the ads running. Keep building out that team. Seems like you've got a very bright future ahead. So I'm excited to watch you guys build this and grow it over the next couple of years.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and definitely we're very, very excited about it too, and I really appreciate you guys and then what you put together over at JobTread. Like I said, it's kind of a joke, but it's really not. Like I'm using so little of your platform currently, but I look forward to growing into it. Right, as we get more of those systems, as we get more mature as a company, and using more of the platform to really just kind of like, it's so data driven, and we'll be able to track everything from inventory to invoicing to subs and everything along those lines, schedules. So I think that being able to find you guys early, and now we're only using it for the sales portion, probably at its maximum right now, but be able to build into those others and not have to find other solutions where you have to pick and pull and try to piece things together. I think that is going to save us a lot of headache and really cut down on some of the growing pains that would come associated with it. Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm a big proponent of you gotta prioritize. You got to focus on what is the most current need, and I see a lot of times people will, they'll sign up, they see everything that can be done, and that can be overwhelming. And so it's so important that, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you got to prioritize. And, one thing I learned early on too, you don't need to focus on scaling until you need to scale. I've seen so many people who spend all their time over engineering these elaborate processes when, look, you just spent more time trying to, figure out this in-depth process than you should have just gone and done a couple of the blocking and tackling and just knocked some things out. And let's still be very productive. And then when you get to the point where you're overwhelmed with the ability, or the inability to deliver the work and to sell the jobs, and you got more leads in than you can handle, well, that's when you take that step back and say, okay, how can I, streamline this process, or what system can I put in over here that will help me manage, a larger volume of leads or of jobs or whatever it may be, so I think you've got the right approach to, look, let's get the blocking and tackling done. Let's get some deal flow going. Let's, win these jobs. Let's go deliver a great job, and as that sort of starts to snowball on you, which I have no doubt it will, and as you start pulling that ad lever even more, then you can start kind of thinking about, okay, how can we be more efficient on the production side? How can we get more in depth into the numbers and make sure that we're hitting those, those target profit margins? But I think you're doing it right, Dan. And it's just really exciting to see what you've been able to accomplish in such a little amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Eric, appreciate it. Appreciate being able to go through my story. It's always fun to discuss it a little bit. I'm still very, very new at this and very green, so we're learning quickly, and it's not coming without a lot of stress, but it's also coming with a lot of fun. And I'm very much enjoying it. So I'm really excited to see what the next year brings as well, and just kind of see how we grow.
Awesome, man. We'll keep it up. Hope to see you at JobTread Connect in January too. That'll be another great event. Lots of kind of more than just the beginner boot camp. But yeah, dude, it's really it's an honor, man, to be able to have you on here to share your story. I think this is a great discussion. I appreciate you sharing everything, because there's a lot of people that are trying to do what you're doing, or maybe they've already been at it for several years that can learn a lot of just everything that you've shared today has been really valuable, very insightful. So thank you for taking the time, for hopping on here, sharing that story, and yeah, look forward to seeing your continued growth.
Absolutely, Eric. I appreciate it. We'll definitely see you in January. We'll be up for that.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Cool. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.